Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. This is the show where we go deep into the Disney Plus catalog. We find a movie or a TV show and we bring it here to talk about it. And tonight we are talking about Marvel's Hawkeye. And I need to talk to my good friend Patrick here. How are you?
Rob Whiteside.
Kate the Bishop. So good. Listen, man, I could do this all day. The show we're talking about tonight is a Marvel TV show. It was a limited series, 6 episodes, and starred Hawkeye, which it's so funny to me that we would feature an Avenger who was like not the one with the powers. He was sort of in the background, and we found a way to make an entire series around that. Yeah, they do. They play into that hard. And we're going to talk so much. I have so much to say about this one. I know you do too. But I saw on social media you were telling people that you've watched this multiple times, right?
This might be my 6th viewing. How many years has it been out? Came out in 2020? 2? So it is definitely at least my 5th viewing of it. I watched it twice legitimately back to back when it came out, and I've watched it every holiday season since.
So you're saying that this is definitely a holiday. Like, I was going to ask you the whole Die Hard question, the whole like Nightmare Before Christmas question. Like, is this an actual Christmas special?
Yes.
Or not? You do think
100%.
so?
100%. This is about a guy trying to get back to his family for Christmas.
Okay. This came out in 2021, so this would be, I guess, 3 years since this has been out. And actually, the very first episode of this series, again, there are only 6 episodes, is called "So This Is Christmas," which John Lennon. But I honestly, the Christmas music in this. Let's start with there. The Christmas music in this, man.
Yep.
It just hits hard and in the best of ways, and like when it like there's one episode where it ends with like "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch."
The needle drop.
Yeah, and sometimes
Killer.
like when they're in the middle of a fight, it has a very cool vibe when they're playing Michael Bublé. I mean,
I put it on my Instagram story to advertise the show today. I put that Bublé song. There is such a big difference between needle drops that are just to reference the song and diegetic music that is actually happening to the characters in the story. And they balance that so well in this series. The use of Christmas music is tremendous. And every episode, I believe, ends with a pretty significant needle drop. And they do it so well.
Yeah, I agree. And, when we were watching this, you texted me and you were like, dude, the show is so good. And I knew exactly what you were talking about. This was last weekend, I believe. And I was like, yep, we're going back and rewatching it. But yeah, the Christmas music to this thing is just on point. Again, I have flashbacks of different scenes, but there's the scene where they're flying over New York and you're hearing the Vince Guaraldi Peanuts, "Christmas time is here."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, the music to this is such a big part of it, with the fight scenes and the needle drops like you're talking about, and just to add to it. And yeah, it does kind of give you that Christmas hug with all of this Christmas music from all different places too. It's really kind of amazing. But anyway, and it's all original stuff. So, I mean, like the original stuff. Not it's original to this, but it's the original stuff, which is fantastic. I was watching in the chat, and Dawn just said, wow, has it been that long? Referencing again to the fact that this came out in 2021. And honestly, I thought it was more recent than that, because I feel like, we just talked about Disney Plus just celebrated 5 years, which is also 5-year anniversary of this show, of our show. And so... it kind of seems like Disney Plus has been around forever, but also at the same time, it feels like it's just gotten here in a lot of ways. And again, we've done a ton of reviews on this show. We've done over about 250 reviews, and of those you have done, this is your 62nd. So, God bless you for that one. But yeah, these
awesome.
show. What's that?
I said, God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone. Let's take a look though at these special these TV shows that we've had. So here's the
Yeah.
first one was WandaVision, then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and then What If, which does that even count? I don't know. And then came in Hawkeye, and then Moon Knight. So a lot of them are based on characters that that didn't really get. They're not the big leaguers like Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, those kind of things. So I feel like this one was pretty special. But here's another thing about this one. A couple weeks ago, Desi and I reviewed Agatha All Along. It really is kind of yes, it's a sequel to WandaVision, but it also doesn't really reach out past Agatha's world. This one brings in people from all over the place, references, and it's like this crossroads of Marvel in this 6 episode series, and well, I want to hold off talking about the big bad because I could spend a whole bunch of time talking about that. But like the fact that you bring Elena into this and her angst about she was told at the end of Black Widow with the tag that Hawkeye was responsible for Natasha's death, and so she's walking around thinking that happened. Where we go with Echo in this one, from meeting her into her having her own series. So like again, it's a crossroads. It's kicking that off while we're like finishing off the Black Widow story, and then of course getting into the Netflix stuff. So of all of that stuff, like, does it? You said you've seen it like 6 times. Does it just blow your mind, like when you go back and watch it and realize what they did?
No, because this is what it's supposed to be. This is what it is supposed to have been all along. This is the quote unquote hashtag it's all connected stuff that we were promised from the beginning of the MCU, that we were promised with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that we're starting to finally see the Netflix people coming back into the fold. I mean, we see it with the big bad here, and we see it later in She-Hulk. These are what we were told was going to happen, that this universe exists and it's all connected. So no, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it introduced me to characters that I really didn't know and have become some of my favorite characters. Like, I knew nothing about Echo, and I've learned and I've read up on her books, and I like the take that happens in What If with like an earlier version of Echo. It's just, it's such a rich show.
Yeah. Let's talk a second again because we're here and we're saying talking about Echo, and so Echo is Alaqua Cox, and how did they find the perfect person for this role? Like, we have an
No idea.
actual Native American deaf or native deaf girl who can act and
Yeah.
fight. Like, where? How did you find
Yeah.
that?
I don't know. I was actually just at a conference for my actual job, and we called that Finding the Unicorn, and they found a unicorn with her,
Yeah.
and her facials and the way she signs. I know very little ASL in my previous work, and the way she signs and the emphasis, it's just such a great story to tell, and it's a wonderful way that it kicks off here. She probably, out of everybody, gets the most character development.
Well, and it's kind of they were going somewhere with it, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah. Honestly, though, the little girl that they got to cast her looks so
I
much like
know,
her.
just like her.
Same thing. But yeah, the fact that I mean, she had never acted before, and she comes into this and is the perfect person for it, and fights and does all the stuff that she does in it. It's amazing, and you're right. It is kind of like finding the unicorn. Um, Jeremy Renner. Let's talk about Jeremy Renner for a second. Good Lord, a real life hero. The fact that he got eaten by a snowcat and then walks out of that, like literally has the ability to walk again in a situation where they kind of thought he was done. And
I
not
mean,
just
I
done,
think,
like dead done.
yeah, yeah. No, and honestly, this is one of the cases of you should have gave him his flowers before then, because his performance in this is immaculate. It is absolutely Emmy worthy. It's incredible. He's never had much to do in the MCU, and this is him getting that meat on the bone and making a feast out of it.
Yeah. No, I agree, and he does it perfectly. And I think that any of the other actors, like he was actually on a podcast that I listened to called Smartless with Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and Sean
Yeah,
Hayes.
I actually heard bits of that.
Oh, did you? So, and
Yeah.
on that, he was talking about having been this character for 20 years, and you're like, well, that can't be right. And then you're just like, oh, I guess it is. You're like, that can't be. Because he was originally in the Thor movie, which was the third movie in this
Has a
whole
great
mess.
one-liner in the Thor movie too. Great one-liner, well delivered.
Yeah. And he talked about like kind of started acting later in life, and just people not realizing how good he is because of the role that he was in here. And he's just great in this, and there's a lot of banter back and forth between characters all the way through that I kind of love. But so he's great in it. Hailee Steinfeld was almost like a fan pick. People were like, she
Yeah.
should be Kate Bishop, and then she gets the call that's like, we would like you to be Kate Bishop, and then apparently she walks in and Kevin Feige was just like, shakes her hand and goes, oh, okay, you're Kate Bishop, like, and if you want this, you're Kate Bishop. And she again pulls it off perfectly. The banter between her and Hawkeye, or between her and
Mhm.
Florence Pugh, is just I like could sit there and like watch it back and
And
forth. This tennis,
the fight
yeah.
scene with her and Florence Pugh is so complex in terms of character building and these two people who really, really like each other, but are still fighting because they're on polar opposite ends of this spectrum where, trying to keep Hawkeye alive versus wanting to kill Hawkeye. Um, and I got really excited, and I hope it goes somewhere. So, spoilers for, I believe, the post credit of the Marvels is they definitely started to build the Young Avengers,
You know
and
what?
that is, yeah,
Yeah, I was about to say that was also in my notes to have a conversation about, because um, I, I I I feel like we're not only, and I think, let me back up a second and just catch my breath here because I want to just blurt it all out. But when Desi and I did Agatha All Along, and we were talking about Teen, and
mm.
no spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched that
Which,
one
okay,
yet.
real quick, I knew Teen was that from the jump. Like, did anybody have any doubt that he was anyone other than that?
Yes, yeah, there were red herrings to point to like two other options, and so
Yeah,
yeah, but I'm just saying. All right, so Teen in that
yeah,
one though
mhm.
is to the point where it's like, okay, he should be in the Young Avengers, and so
Right,
should, like, is it? I'm not sure if it was
Goliath.
Hulkling that they introduced, or the
Yep,
kid that they introduced of Hulk's in the end of She-Hulk, and then you've got
yeah, that's
Ms.
Hulkling.
Marvel and Kate Bishop, and you've got them. Like, you've got the team. Ironheart,
Yep,
you've got the team. You should put them together, but they're going to be not young Avengers by the time they put together a Young Avengers movie. I feel like all of the
right.
breadcrumbs have been laid, like they were an
Yep.
Infinity Gauntlet, to go nowhere.
Well, I mean, maybe we can go Great Lake Avengers then. We just need a different Avengers group. They have to do Young Avengers. We've put so many of them together, and the Young Avengers have great stories. And we don't need to worry about, these giant contracts that RDJ has and Scarlett Johansson and all these very, very talented actors. Although I imagine Hailee Steinfeld costs a pretty penny right now. And tell these stories that are going to be amazing, that are more relatable to a younger audience. Like we said, they've been at this 20 plus years now. They might not be young in terms of age on the screen, but they're young in terms of how long that we've, known them.
Yeah, I guess so. The other thing that I see in the Young Avengers is, if you go to Marvel's Avengers campus, and you've been in
I
California,
have.
it's they've got like all of the layout there too, with Harley, Squirrel Girl, like all of those like little Easter eggs are throughout
Yep.
the entire, like,
Give me
uh
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Let's go.
right, I was gonna say, but Moon Girl, I thought, okay, well, they've introduced her here, and then they go animated, and then they cancel the animated show. So I mean, it just
Oh, I didn't know that. The animated show is phenomenal.
yeah, it had two seasons. They did not renew it for a third.
Yeah, one of my favorite
Um,
characters. Great character. If you are into reading comic books, go read up on her. And if you have not, and you're watching this and you've watched Hawkeye, and you have not read the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye, which this
You
is
do love that.
largely based on, you need to go pick that up. It is one of the best reads you can have.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've corrected me in chat, I see, about it was Scar.
No, they did.
Oh, okay.
Tony Stank.
But like I said, I remember they introduced him in an end tag, but it was like, well, here we go again. There's one more young Avenger that we're looking at here.
Yep.
So let me pause about the cast for a second and talk about we talked about Avengers Campus. I don't remember us seeing like a Kate Bishop show up, because like when Loki showed up on TV, we saw Loki in Avengers Campus.
Huh.
And when we saw,
I remember that, yeah.
And so it and I'm trying to think, Moon Knight and Mr. Knight.
Then?
2021, maybe. That you may have made a good point. Well, no, it shouldn't have been, because they closed in fall of 2021, and spring of 2021, and they opened 2020, and I think they reopened in summer of 2021.
Yeah.
And this
maybe
is
they were just
like
trying
fall.
to get everything back and going at that point in time. But
Yeah,
man,
maybe.
I would love a Kate Bishop meet and greet.
Kate Bishop meet and greet. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, they changed this a little bit because Eleanor Bishop in the comic books wasn't like the baddie. It was her dad was the baddie,
Yeah.
and they changed that a little bit. So I love that. But anyway, where I was talking about with Avengers Campus is not only that, but next door to Avengers Campus in Disney California Adventure, they did the coolest thing ever. And it was this. It was Rogers the Musical that they brought to life from this. Like, here's another thing that this show had given us is that, for those of you who haven't watched, which I assume if you're watching this, you probably have watched it, and it was 2021, so you should have watched it. And if you haven't, hopefully you go and watch it after this. Hawkeye, the Save the City scene when they're in New York, Hawkeye's reason for being there is to see this musical about the Avengers that he was invited to. And one of the things I was like looking at behind the scenes is that the other Avengers, apparently in their storyline, all the Avengers were invited, and Hawkeye was the only one that showed up. That was what that's the story
amazing.
Is that. And it makes sense, but like all of the Avengers were invited. Hawkeye was the only one that shows up to see this musical made about them saving the city. The Battle for New York is iconic in this entire MCU, and it bleeds over into the Netflix shows that we'll talk about in a bit. But the Battle for New York is like center to MCU. It's that touch point. There are two, in my opinion, two big touch points in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One is the Battle for New York. The other one is the Blip. Is that what you're going to say, the Blip? Yeah. So
the Blip. Because
again, things like WandaVision go back to the Blip. Even this one talks about the Blip because Yelena disappeared and shows back up in this one.
Well, I like how they make the Blip Ronan's motivation.
Yes, and then so in this one, there's a musical about the Battle for New York, and in this, he's sitting there watching it, and he's miserable about the whole thing. But then at the very end, as a tagline, they play the entire Save the City, like at the end of the series. Like there's no post credits throughout the entire thing until you get to episode 6, and it says Happy or Merry Christmas from Marvel, Marvel, and they play the entire thing. This is something that, again, if you watch behind the scenes, the Assembled that's on Disney Plus, they talk about how much work went into writing the song and choreographing the thing, and they had a stunt person from the Marvel Cinematic Universe come and help them on their choreography for this play they're making, and it was brilliant. It was so good. And they were like, oh, we should put this in the park. And they put it at the Hyperion Theater. I was there day one when it opened up. I got my shirt. I got my Rogers the Musical popcorn bucket, as you would imagine.
Of course you do. Yes.
Of course. And it was so good. And they made an entire musical out of it. It was like 20, 30 minutes. And I think we saw it twice while I was there, and I would have seen it 2 or 3 more times. So... Anyway,
this is the stuff that Disney does that makes us crazy, because remember we were supposed to get a Main Street theater in Walt Disney World. Remember that? I
Hmm.
mean, there's no reason that this isn't running aside from cost and expense. Honestly, if you made this a hard ticket inside park admission and then you have to pay to see the show, people would see it. Why isn't it there?
I
Let us
don't know.
have nice things.
You know what they did? It was a limited run, and at the
Yeah.
end of the run, I heard some people say, "Well, they have to close it because there's something coming." And here nothing ever did. Nothing ever did. So I think it opened in July of last year, maybe, and closed in the fall. But nothing else ever came there, and so now they use it for nothing. So I don't know why. And there was a rumor, I feel like, that they were going to bring it back at some point, but they should because it was so good. I was on a high the entire time watching that thing. It was so good. And maybe some people don't think it was. I thought it was great. Anyway, the fact that that came out of Hawkeye, and again, only 6 episodes, and there's so many things because again, Echo came out of the back end of this. We also saw, really for the first time, the Netflix series. And here we go talking about the big bad. The Netflix series, because again, for those of you who didn't watch, there was a Defenders saga in between time of when Disney bought Marvel and when MCU was happening. They let Netflix make TV shows, and I think it was before they knew they were going to do Disney Plus. They let Netflix make TV shows, and they made the Defenders, and they're probably like, we're not going to have time to do Punisher, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist. Let's let somebody else do that. They did these 10 to 13 episode series, and they were great. I loved them. Like a little bit dark, a little bit
Amazing.
edgy, and they refer
Yeah.
back to the Battle for New York. So again, the
Yep.
Green Guy. They can't really talk about some of that stuff, and so that
Same thing
series.
that happened in um, Agents of Shield as well. I mean, except we had Lady Sif. Lady Sif did cross over.
Yes, true. And then we saw Black Bolt show up in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I don't
That's
count any of
literally
that
the
really.
only the
Yeah.
yeah, that
I mean,
literally
that
the
thing
only
should be
Inhumans.
that should have been Thanos off the map. It is the one Marvel project, that and Eternals, I have not wasted my time on.
You've never seen Inhumans?
Never seen them. No,
Well,
no intention of it. My
so
television time is valuable. I'm not going to waste it just to be a completionist.
so okay, fair. So when I'm looking at this, there was like Daredevil season 1, Jessica Jones, Daredevil season 2, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, then the Defenders. That was their
Yep.
Avengers was the Defenders. Then there was Punisher season 1, Jessica Jones 2, Luke Cage 2, Iron Fist 2, Daredevil 3, Punisher 2, and Jessica Jones 3. Then we have Hawkeye, and in Hawkeye we're reintroduced to Vincent D'Onofrio's Daredevil. And I feel like
Nope.
we've talked about this
Kingpin.
before. I'm sorry, Kingpin in Daredevil.
Yep.
But feel like we've talked about this before, but he to me was so good that I'm so
So
glad
good.
they brought him back, and then to see him in this, it's just perfect. Kingpin to me is the best live action villain in the
Hmm.
in the MCU. Tell me a better one.
I mean, are we taking the Netflix shows out of it because it's not technically the MCU? Because Purple Man is the worst villain that I've. It's horrendous.
What do
Purple
you mean
Man's
horrendous
terrible.
is in bad, horrendous is in like
Oh,
dangerous?
horrendous! What a dangerous, a phenomenal acting job, but like that character makes my skin crawl. Um,
Well,
and then
and
yeah,
the
I would
the, the
say
fact that
it's
he's
Kingpin.
unstoppable, like it
Yeah,
really, like he's pretty much
yeah.
unstoppable. Yeah.
Hmm.
And secretive. No one's ever going to believe you that a guy whispered to you to tell you to do something and you did it, and no one's going to believe
Yep,
that.
yep, yep.
So yeah.
And then Kingpin, and not so much in this, but in Echo, you see why. If you didn't watch the Netflix shows, you get introduced to a different level of Kingpin than what was in Daredevil. Excuse me, that was in Hawkeye, because he is far more close to his Netflix version when he's on Echo than he is in this. Which, I mean, seeing Kate Bishop go toe to toe with Kingpin and get the upper hand is, whew.
Well, Vincent D'Onofrio in that is so good. And I just, again, I keep coming back to how great that is, and I love that we didn't lose them, and that there's some cohesion, because like the DC universe is all over the place. Like you can't even keep
Ugh.
track. Like they're doing a new reboot, but they still let the Robert Pattinson Batman thing exist, but it's not connected, and like it's so
And I
messy.
mean, they tried to be tongue in cheek and do like Disney did with Flash, and it just was a trash bag of a movie. So it didn't really have the same gravitas as the Marvel products does.
Well, but again, they do an amazing job in bringing in Kingpin to this, and making it a connected world, even though they didn't have anything really to do with the Defenders saga. Bringing them in, bringing Matt Murdock into Spider-Man: No Way Home with the whole "I'm a really good lawyer" line, like that was so awesome. I think they kind of wasted him in She-Hulk. I like the whole thing.
I think he was amazing in She-Hulk.
Okay.
I think he was incredible in She-Hulk.
And then in Echo, we see Daredevil come into it a little bit, and Kingpin. But this is what I'm talking about. Agatha All Along was sort of a bottle episode, if you want to use
Yeah,
television
really,
terms, as opposed to
really.
this is like we have the Black Widow, like, coming in, and we have Kate Bishop, and we even have like characters we don't even talk about, like the Swordsman.
The Swordsman, yeah.
Yeah. So Tony Dalton, who plays Jack in this, who is going to be her father and I mean her stepdad.
Stepdad.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, they just tease the whole thing about him being such a good swordsman, but Jack in the comic books is the swordsman. So like I feel like that's another one of those things that they've laid the groundwork that we may never see it again, or we could. I don't know.
That feels good, right? That feels a little good because there's a niceness to have some mystery to the MCU. When you get surprised by a Marvel product, it makes you feel good because you didn't expect it. Like, man, when I got to see Throg, Puddle Gulp, what is in Loki, even for a split second, that made me so happy because I never thought I'd ever see him. But,
Yeah.
let's get some more Pet Avengers. There we go. Young Avengers, Pet Avengers, back to back.
Yeah, Pet Avengers.
Pizza Dog.
Um,
Good Pizza Dog
yeah,
in there. Love me some Pizza Dog.
yeah. No, I love everything about this. And then again, it's the way the series starts is it starts with the Battle of New York and little Kate Bishop, and she's inspired by Hawkeye in the way that he's just a human. He's not
Mm-hmm.
like an inhuman, or he doesn't have special powers. He's not a mutant. He's just an archer and a soldier, and he's really good at what he does, and he saves her, and it changes her life forever, changes her trajectory. And I love that they do that. And then in the show, the very first episode goes into an opening credits scene that is basically a montage of her training. And
Yeah.
we never see that montage again, which is again brilliant because
No
it
need
works
to. No
sequentially.
need to. Yeah. Showed us. Didn't have to tell us. Didn't need an origin story. Got boom, boom, quick, quick. Loved it.
Yeah.
All right. So I picked something up from this, and we talked a little bit about Spider-Man: No Way Home. Did you realize that where the bishops are living is the Green Goblin is Norman Osborn's house from
N-
Spider-Man?
no.
And then when in Spider-Man No Way Home, he mentioned that someone was living in his house. I thought that was incredible. I had no idea. I just picked that up when I was, doing research for the episode. I think that's so cool.
That I didn't know, but I'd have to go back to that. That's awesome. So the battle is happening, and little Kate, which by the way, again, great casting for Kate Bishop and Hailee Steinfeld later. The battle for New York is raging around them, and the first time we hear it and sense it, there's just a Shatari like goes by her window, and then she kind of looks up, and we know what's happening. It's like, uh-oh, like we know this is going down. And then there's a guy, or there's one of them like chasing after her, um and they're about to get there, and then Hawkeye saves her by shooting one of his famous trick arrows at her, at the ship. and so it's just really well done that like after that the smoke clears and here he is up on top of the building like fighting. And so we're going back to that, but it's taking all of us back to that moment because you hear the Avengers music and you see him fighting, and it's like this is the thing that they do so well, man. It's almost like they're like, yeah, we meant to do this. We knew 20 steps ago we were going to be here. Now, maybe they didn't, but they sure make me believe that they did, as opposed to Man of Steel when they, did Batman versus Superman. I'm like, you didn't know that this was going to happen.
If you want to trash DC products for the next half hour, I'm game. We can do that. I could do that all day.
I could do this all.
My thing is, do you think there's a holocron keeper? Like, is it just Faihi? Does he just have everything, or is there someone like Star Wars has? That's the keeper of the holocron that knows all and makes sure we reference, or do they just work so hard to make it look like they had this planned all along?
I don't know. They do. They just it blows my mind every time. I'm like, no, how did they do that? It's so incredibly well done. But the sequence that I was talking about with the training is, you're seeing Kate Bishop kind of earn what we see of her later, is like the practicing bow and arrow, or archery, practicing, with fighting and accumulating all these awards for gymnastics and karate and archery and all these things, so that when we finally see her. And here's the problem that I have with Star Wars and Rey. Rey all of a sudden just knows and can beat Kylo Ren, who has spent his entire life training. In this one, she's earned it. She's earned the fact that when she is going toe-to-toe with Kingpin or fighting side by side with Clint, she earned it. She's good. And again, they only show it once.
Ways, Rob.
It does. I'm sure I'll probably get some.
Would you rather she was in a swamp with a puppet banging a stick on her head? Would you prefer that?
I wouldn't mind it. That would be great.
It's kind of great.
I love that her school's archery outfit is what is basically Kate Bishop's costume already. And then let's talk about the LARPers. Like, what a brilliant thing to do!
God.
What a brilliant thing to do! A reason why they would have uniforms is because no one makes a uniform better than a cosplayer. And that's brilliant. And then the fact that they're like first responders, you're like, okay, I instantly love these guys. And then on top of that, the fact that a real fighter is doing fake fighting and hating every minute of it, it's everything to them. Like the LARPing aspect of it is like, I want to find out who wrote that part of it and just like give him an attaboy, because that was awesome.
The direction in this series is so good too. I was looking up the team of Birdie and Bert and Birdie. I think they did 3 or 4 episodes, and just the way that the camera moves through these scenes and how it's like feeling like an epic battle around Clint and he cannot be bothered. It's just so well shot and, like you said, well written. The LARPers are an incredible addition. I need them to come back. I need them somewhere. I need to know, A, they're okay, and B, what they're up to.
Yeah. And then Fra Fee, who is the guy that plays Kazi, who is the first lieutenant for Echo, and also, or Maya, and the first lieutenant was for her father, and obviously, in this, the double crosser. First of all, he's Irish, playing American-ish, with a Russian group. Like, I'm just thrown all over the place with this, and like the tracksuit mafia is just like bro. It's so good. And then, but he is so good in this, and apparently learned sign language for this so that he could talk with Alaqua Cox.
So did
Maya.
Hailee Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner. Both did.
Well, and again, they just were they were just so good in this. But again, those little things that probably took a lot of work and really pay off. Let's talk about Florence Pugh as Elena. She shows up, and we don't know who.
I thought it was I thought she was there all along. I forgot that it was like almost the end of the series when she came in.
But she's the back and forth between her and again, we're talking about like she's doing a Russian accent the entire time. And she's so good, and she was great in Oppenheimer. She's amazing.
And she's
But
great in Black Widow. Black Widow is so underrated. It is one of the Marvel products that I go to rewatch more than any other that I didn't think I would really like, but the cast in that is just incredible, and it's a fun story. It's a good story.
Yeah, no, I agree. But she's great in this, and the interaction between her and Kate, where she's going and she's sitting there with Kate, and she keeps calling her Kate Bishop, and then Kate finally says like, "Do you just say that so like I'm impressed that you know my name?" And then she starts rattling off other stuff about her. But Kate Bishop, this macaroni, you got to try the macaroni.
I can put hot sauce.
And then she just the sriracha all over it. It is really, I mean, the banter between them, the banter between Jeremy Renner and Hailee Steinfeld, is both they're great the way that they interact together. So yeah, I mean the cast in general is amazing to me, and rounded out by Linda Cardellini.
Yeah.
Which I always mispronounce her name, but she was Velma and was brilliant as Velma, but she's been in so many different things. But I feel like as Laura Barton, she's perfect. She's so good. And what's great about her in this role is like she's like supportive of him, but also fearful for him, and she's a partner, like a true partner with him all the way with this stuff. She's like, you're just calling me. I know that you're just calling me to tell me you're doing this. You're not asking my permission. Or she's like, do it, but you need to remember this. And just, again, such a great partner. She's not the sort of like the damsel in distress or the wife just sitting at home. She's a partner with him in this, and I love her take on it.
I'm pretty sure she is. It's never been confirmed, but she is supposed to be one of the Mockingbirds, if I'm not mistaken. I know that they introduced I can't ever think of the character's name. One of Bobby something in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as one of the Mockingbirds, but I believe that's what they're leading to her as being one of a version of Mockingbird.
Because of the watch, and she's like, here's your watch back, and she turns it over and it's got the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on it.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome, yeah. But again, I think that she does an amazing job at that. It's funny to me too that his daughter is played by Ava Russo, who is the daughter of one of the Russo brothers, who was they were the directors of Avengers. And so it's funny because if you look up her acting credits, it's basically just Marvel stuff. I mean,
they didn't
it's basically
sneak her into an episode of Arrested Development.
No, she was in Hawkeye, and she was in Avengers Endgame, and apparently she was on the red carpet for the Marvels or something, Captain Marvel, and that was it. So like she was only in Hawkeye and Avengers Endgame, but again, that's not bad work, and she did a good job.
Yeah.
So there's all that stuff, plus the fact that this is all built around the Ronin, which is, we were all hungry for more Ronin. Like, we saw him, we knew that he was going to be Ronin. There was a lot of behind the scenes, like, leaks about him in the Ronin costume before we actually saw, Endgame come out. And he was great in that. And then, it was very short-lived. So the fact that we get to kind of hear a little bit more of the background of the Ronin, that fight scene where we see him from the outside, from Maya's point of view, where he's just kind of moving through the warehouse, so good. Okay, so I thank you guys for being in the chat. We appreciate it. She's windy on Gravity Falls, Dawn. Yes, she is. Linda Cardellini.
Cardellini, you were right.
Cardellini. Yeah. But yeah, she is awesome. But I don't know if this is fair, Patrick, but you have watched this series six
Oh
times.
no.
So is it okay if I
No.
ask you a couple trivia
Uh,
questions?
no, because I love it so much. I don't want to pay attention to the trivial stuff. We'll see how I can
Uh,
do.
okay, okay. I'm going to ask you some easy stuff here. Okay.
All right,
And
cool,
again,
cool, cool.
if you're in the chat, if you're watching live, play along. If you're watching this recorded, again, maybe just to see if you know the answers to some of them. Um, we'll start with super easy. When the tracksuit uh, mafia guys they capture Clint, which they didn't really
Hmm.
capture him. He kind of gave himself up, and they
Hmm.
take him back to their hideout. What is
It's a
their
KB
hideout?
Toys.
The KB Toys, exactly,
Yeah,
which I love. I mean, it's not
yeah,
really like that. I kept looking
yeah.
it up, going, was there one? Because I know in Times Square there was a Toys R
The
Us,
Toys R
and
Us.
there
Yeah.
were definitely around that area some FAO Schwartz stores, but there was no famous no knowledge of a KB Toys except
I
for the
mean, it could
fact
have been in one
that
of
I
the
read.
malls over there. Yeah.
Well, no, but they took an empty building and they made it to be as if it was a clearance KB Toys, and apparently it's because Kevin Feige had a soft spot for KB Toys, like having grown up with it. What is the tracksuits? What is their moving company called?
Trust a bro moving.
Yep, exactly. Um, when Maya shows up at that warehouse I was talking about, what was
Mhm.
the? It was an auto repair business. What was the name of the auto repair business?
Oh, I don't know that one. That's a great question. I do not know.
Because they reference it a couple times and they
Yep,
come
I
back
know.
to it.
And you see the sign a few times. Yep, I
Yeah.
can see the sign. I have no idea what it says.
Here's what's so great about it. It's called Fat Man Auto Repair,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
which I assume is some reference to Kingpin, but
Kingpin. Yeah.
Fat Man Auto Repair. When she is when Kate Bishop is in the basement where the auction is taking place, she's
Mm-hmm.
dressed as a server accidentally at first and then uses it to
Mm-hmm.
her advantage. When she gets called out, who does she say sent her?
Ben? Greg?
Closer.
Gary?
There it is. That is.
Uh,
Gary sent me, and then I
yeah.
thought that was
I'm
brilliant.
Gary.
So yeah, speaking of names, she saves Clint, and then they take an Uber. What name does she use for her Uber?
Oh God.
They mention it twice. They mention
I
it twice.
know. I know. Uh-huh. I don't have it. That's a really good question.
Uber for Tabitha.
Yeah.
So I love that they did that. All right, so two more. One of them again, super easy.
Okay.
Uh, when Clint is sitting around the table in the Chinese restaurant with his kids, he
Mhm.
asks each of them, "What's your top thing that you need to want to do for Christmas? Because we're going to do it."
Mhm.
What are the three things the kids say they want to do for Christmas?
Movie marathon.
Correct.
Build a gingerbread house and
Correct.
see the tree at Rockefeller Center. No? What's the third one?
Oh, you give up?
Yeah. I
Ugly
thought I
Christmas
had that.
sweaters.
I do not recall that at all.
Yeah, Clint mentions the Christmas tree, but
Yeah.
top things like the eldest boy says ugly Christmas sweaters. He's like
Mm.
ugly Christmas sweaters, got it. And yeah, movie marathon and gingerbread houses. But yeah, that's very close. So you were rattling them off, and they do talk about the tree. There's a type of pizza that she lives next to this pizza place or above this pizza place. What's the
Yeah.
name of the pizza place?
Pizza Dog Pizza. It is a reference to a Marvel writer. Ah. It's not like Romita's or something like that.
Because it comes back over and
I
over,
know.
like more so than it
I
should,
know.
honestly, to
And
be
you see
honest.
it all the time. Oh God, what is it, Rob?
Herman's Hearty Slice.
Yeah, it's a reference to a Marvel person, I believe.
Yeah. What did they end up naming Pizza Dog?
Pizza Dog. I know he has a different name, and I refuse to learn it.
Oh,
It's Pizza Dog.
okay. By the way, here's the sign.
Herman, yeah.
I just and there's a couple times where they actually open pizza boxes and it has it
Yeah.
on there, which
Yep.
I kind of
Mm-hmm.
love. And the very last scene when Kate comes home to visit with Clint's family for Christmas because her father's dead and she sold her mother up the river, so she has no other
Mm-hmm.
place to stay. They say, oh my gosh, this dog's so cute. What's his name? And she says, Lucky.
Yeah. And
Which
that
is
I do believe is his name in the series too, in the comic series too.
here's the interesting thing though about this is that his eye is like in the comics, his eye is
Yeah.
like shut.
Yeah.
And when you go to watch, and again, it's a fun watch if you love this series, is the assembled making of this show. When you go to watch that, they CGI'd that in. I thought it was the same thing as Maya's, that they found
Yeah.
a
They're like,
dog.
yeah, we found a dog with one eye. We're great.
Right.
Um,
I mean, he just does such a good
I
acting job. I buy
I
it.
always thought you were the only fan of Assembled, and in traveling to new various social media, going and checking out threads and getting back into Blue Sky, there are a ton of people who are huge fans of Assembled. I have not watched a single one, but yeah, I might go and watch this one because I love this series so much. Also, have you ever noticed that I am so much better at trivia for the stuff that I hate?
Right, because you've told me that. You've told me it's
Yeah.
because you get so distracted by how bad it is that you
Yeah.
just start picking it apart and just like looking at everything. So
Yeah.
when it's something you love,
Yeah.
no, you've given me that. I understand that. That's why I said so.
Because
I mean,
not to let the cat out of the bag. I think it's pretty obvious. I love this. It is just incredible. I could talk about this literally. I know we've referenced it a few times. I could talk about this all day.
I could do this all. Yeah, for sure. I do love that. The ending of it is so perfect with her going through possible names, and and then again, I get so giddy about it. It's so perfectly done. It's like she's like, Lady Hawk, no, and then goes through all of them, and he goes, I got one, and then they go, Hawkeye. Like the end credit scene, like Hawkeye, like there's
Yep.
your mic drop right
Yep.
there. But that's all he
Yep.
says. I got one, and then logo.
Yeah.
So well done. Yeah, I'm really into that. But there are two other characters I want to talk about. Is Armando the Seventh. By the way,
Yes.
thank you
My
for doing
God.
the. Yeah, thank you for doing the trivia. We're done with trivia, but thank you for doing that. Thanks for Ronald for maybe thinking about doing it. I'm looking in the chat. He goes, my memory sucks. But so Armando the Seventh, this little kid, comes up, and my favorite exchange with him is when Jack gets into kind of a little bit of a
Yes.
spitting match
The
with
little.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says this line, and I wrote it down. Remember when you peed your pants in the Hamptons? I do. Everyone does.
Everyone does.
Right? Like just roasting this little kid who has way too much like entitlement. And he's, remember when you peed your pants in the Hamptons? I do. Everyone does. So that was good. Anything you want to say about Armando the Seventh?
I just like that exchange that you reference. That my favorite part is when he's like, "You're not old enough to appreciate my wine collection. By the time you get out, I will be." and just what happens to Jack? What happens to him?
Nothing.
Nothing. He's good.
Oh, you mean
golden,
like
he walks.
Yeah, so they had him falsely arrested. He comes back. I love the confidence he has. Like he's got it. Like they're
Yes.
taking him away. He's like, "Don't worry, this is not me. I'll be back. It's fine. Don't
Yeah.
worry about me, hun." And yet she's the one that sold him down the river. I don't know why I had to put my hands behind my back when I did that, but it just made me feel like channel him a little bit more. He's outside talking with the LARPers, and they're like, "Oh, Wendy's kind of flirting with him a little bit outside, and you'd be really good at LARPing." He's like, "Oh, LARPing? What's that? Is that a leisure activity?" And then he's like, "Oh, I think I have some blood on my tie." Like he's just very matter of fact about everything.
Yeah.
Everything is just so even with him. That's
His
got
fight
to be
scene with
key.
Kate is so good.
Yeah,
So
he's
good.
like you're when they're fencing in the hallway, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you got me, good job. Oh, you got me again." And then she's like
Mm-hmm.
in his face, and he just whips out the sword and knocks it
Mm-hmm.
out at the last second. That has to be akin to the swordsman, though. And so
Yeah.
I would love to see some him come back just randomly in some
Maybe he trains up
series.
Taskmaster. Maybe we get him in Thunderbolts asterisk, which
Yes,
I'm really
Thunderbolts
worried
would
about
be
Thunderbolts
interesting.
asterisk.
Are you?
I am. I'm really worried about it.
So is here's a question for you. Is or here's the other character I want to talk about real quick is her
Mm-hmm.
mom. Again, they made it a
Yeah.
mother-daughter relationship instead of Derek Bishop being like the bad guy, and it's Eleanor Bishop, and so Vera Farmiga. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I've seen her in other things. Is plays Eleanor Bishop here. She has a couple of really biting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call them passive aggressive lines, but she has two really
No, they are.
biting. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So biting lines in there. One of them is when she's talking to Clint, and she's like, "Do you have a family?" Like you feel her about to drop the hammer
Mm-hmm.
on him about Kate. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember exactly the line, but it was something along the lines of, "Oh, you have a family, then you understand. Like, be gone with you." And then in the end, when the police show up and she's turned her mom in to the police, she goes, "Is this what heroes do, Kate? Turn their mothers in on Christmas?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, "Wow, what a witch! Send her
But
away."
that goes to the whole cool motive, still murder, and she did that at least once, at bare minimum once,
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah,
yeah.
those villains always frustrate me, where they feel like they've got a leg to stand on, like Killmonger, like when in the
All
end
right,
of Wakanda
well,
Forever.
Killmonger has some real valid points, man.
But at the same
He's not
time,
a great guy.
no. But at the same time, the reason that that his cousin wants to put him away is he just tried to overthrow the world, and he killed hundreds, admittedly, of people to get there, and he's like, "Yeah, man, that's not fair." It's like, well, you walked a different path. Like there has to be something here, I guess. Maybe not. But I just feel like it's a thing. So, um, but anyway, what's two questions I have for you. First one is this Kate's story or is this Hawkeye's story?
I think it's both. I think it can be both, and I think it is both because this is Clint going through the stages of grief, dealing with Natasha's death, and it's him trying to reconcile being an incredibly visible superhero and wanting to have a private family life. And I think it's Kate Bishop learning what it takes to be an Avenger.
Okay. The next question is this show walks us into Echo, which
Yep.
Echo, aside from a throwback uh, to Daredevil in a fight scene, is also sort of like Agatha, a bottle episode. Yes, it has
Yeah.
Kingpin from the Defenders, but it's just her and her origin and her heritage and a retelling of like how she got to be where she was and what happened with her dad. And it's a little different, but not too much from what we learn in Hawkeye. So we go off into that. Is Daredevil Born Again, do you think that's going to in some way pick up from Echo, or do you think it's going to be its own thing? Because that's the next one we see
Hmm.
with Kingpin involved, and that comes out this March.
I
What do you expect
imagine
from
we're
that?
going to see. I think we're going to see a little bit of She-Hulk. I think we're going to have her. I mean, I honestly, I'd kill if it was like a courtroom drama and we're trying to actually convict Kingpin. But I think they're going to go with the series where Kingpin becomes mayor in New York. So I believe that's what I've heard is kind of the basis of this. I don't know. I don't know how much we're going to see of everyone else. I'd like to see more of the Defenders. I've heard that they brought almost everybody in, and they didn't have Foggy, and they brought Foggy back in for reshoots. So I don't know. I get really nervous when there's a lot of reshoots on a show, and that's kind of why I'm a little bit worried about Thunderbolts Asterisk, is because I feel like it's gotten lost in the sauce a little bit, and I'm worried that Daredevil Born Again. But just give me those same fight scenes, and give me Charlie Cox is an incredible Matt Murdock.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of those things. Just like Kingpin and Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox needed to come back and be Daredevil, and he's so good. I started rewatching the Defender saga before you and I think had decided that about Hawkeye. Or no, maybe we had it and it was on the list. And I started rewatching it knowing Daredevil Born Again's coming. And some of these, like, I may not have even caught Jessica Jones season 3. Jessica Jones season 1 at the beginning was so good for me. And you're right, the Purple Man and David Tennant. Love David Tennant. But so I'm in watching that one now. And then I'm watching it, like, I pulled up the order and I'm like, oh, Hawkeye's in this order. But I can't wait. I can't watch all this stuff before then because it's like hundreds of hours of TV, I think, at this point.
It really is hundreds of hours. And honestly, there's diminishing returns on those Netflix shows. Iron Fist is atrocious. Iron Fist is straight up bad.
I agree.
I only saw a little bit of Defenders. I think that even as you get a little further in Luke Cage, it gets a little bad. I don't remember if I watched Jessica Jones season 3. I feel like that has a lot to do with Hellcat and Patty Walker, which I think is a great character, and I hope they do revisit her. Kristen Ritter killed that role. She did a great job. They did such a great job casting, but I think the writing got a little sloppy, and I think they were worried about these huge set pieces that they became so known for. I mean, the Daredevil hallway fight scene, I think, goes down in history as one of the greatest fight scenes ever put to film. And I think the writing slipped a little bit. So I don't know if I would rewatch all of those.
Okay. So tell me again with this one is, did you and I ranked the Marvel TV series? Mm-hmm. Okay. So before we get to final thoughts on this, which I know you have some, tell me, again, you've already kind of played your hand in this and how much you love this series. Mm-hmm. Tell me where Hawkeye enters into the list of Marvel TV series for you right now. Like, is it number
1?
Really? Nothing's
mm-hmm.
higher. Okay.
Nothing's higher than this. Because it has the most rewatchability for me, and it's entertainment from stop to finish. You know, total maybe 7 hours, I think, about 7 hours between the 6 episodes, and it goes by in a blink of an eye. I think it's the most well put together one, and while it may not have the connections that, say, Loki does and the implications that some of the other ones do, it just is, to me, from start to finish, the best.
But again, like I said before, I think this one has those connections more so than it really is to me a crossroads series that it brings in the Netflix folks and the Defenders saga, and it brings in, Yelena, who's going to then go into Thunderbolts afterwards, and it really, to me, is such a crossroads story that I almost would put it at number 1 as well. I loved Moon Knight, but Moon Knight was very much encapsulated, like I've been saying, like a bottle. I mean, it doesn't relate at all, and I hope that they would bring it into the MCU. It doesn't relate at all, but I would love to see
how you bring Moon Knight in. I really don't, unless you somehow tie in Apocalypse because of the Egyptian connection there. I'm not sure. I love Werewolf by Night. That's more of a movie, yeah. And I watch that every Halloween now. It is required viewing at Halloween, and I think that's just equally as well done. But I don't need those characters. I don't need Elsa Bloodstone. Elsa Bloodstone's a weird character. I don't need any more of her. I have just enough. Man-Thing, give me some more Man-Thing. Sure, Man-Thing can pop up somewhere. Who knows? But in terms of quality from start to finish, and we're just talking about the Disney Plus series, Hawkeye is definitely number 1. I don't know, man. The first season of Daredevil is so good.
It is. It is. And I just finished.
Yeah.
Here, let me embarrass you for a second, though, because when we
Oh,
did our
sure.
rankings, WandaVision
Yeah.
was number one. Uh,
Oh.
Guardians Holiday Special, I think is why it says Guardians, was number two.
Yeah.
And then Hawkeye was number three for you. So
Yeah.
what do you think's changed?
I don't know. I'd have to revisit WandaVision. For me, a lot of times it's my willingness to rewatch something because I can recognize when something is the best versus my favorite. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that I think are the
Oh,
best.
oh, I remember our Pixar ranking.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
believe the
yeah.
same thing, that I can
Yeah.
recognize when something is a favorite versus the best.
Yeah. And I think that this is my favorite. I think WandaVision might be the best. I think it's really good. I have not had the urge, even after watching Agatha, I have not had the urge to go back and watch WandaVision.
See, when we did our review, I went back and watched, because again, like I said, if you check it out, go to deepintheplus.com. Check out we our ranking that you and I did with the TV shows. I think that was a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also we did Agatha all along. Desi and I did that one, and with that one. I went back and watched WandaVision because I wanted to kind of take it all in, and I watched
Mm-hmm.
the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And people argued with me, well, you don't really need Multiverse of Madness for this, but I feel like you kind of do because they refer back in Agatha to Wanda's passing. So I feel like that's a good thing. Ronald's in chat says, I feel like this was an underrated show. It seems like it didn't get much attention when it came out or since. And I think that's accurate. And yet again, this thing, I remember being on Park Center and us talking to Kamila, and she's like, I don't get it. What is it? And we're like, what? You don't know about Rogers the Musical? And again, this is what it was born out of. Will people remember that, or you think they're going to overlook the fact that it came out of this series because it's so brilliantly played, every inch of
Mm-hmm.
it, the way that they bring it in.
If it's up to me, I mean, for me, it's up there with Emmett Otter and Elf and White Christmas and all the stuff
Prep
that
and
I have
Landing.
to watch during 100%. I watched Prep and Landing multiple times during the Christmas season
God bless you.
because it's quick and it gets me in the holiday spirit every time I watch it. I think that's why Guardians was up there. I think we did this at the marathon show when it came out, and it was a lot of recency bias. I haven't rewatched Guardians, but it's also not a series. It's just a one-off.
Yeah. No, we did this. Yeah, we did this
Mm.
after it was this. We did the Pixar ranking during the marathon and got totally roasted. I did anyway. But again, we did this one, and I think the reason we counted Werewolf and Guardians was it was original content.
Yeah.
So we said
Yeah.
ranking every Marvel show, special, and short, and we also put the What If in there because even though, I mean, those
Yeah.
are, and we put the Groot shorts in there. So the Groot shorts
Yeah.
were part of that. We were just basically ranking everything that was original Marvel at the time. And so if Hawkeye had come post this, I would get no change. But the three that we ranked are three that have existed. So that's why I was just curious about that. But I put Hawkeye at 5 before and Miss Marvel at 4. And after rewatching it, I'm questioning that because I did rewatch Miss Marvel for going to see the Marvels in theater too. So, and Falcon the Winter Soldier, I've tried to defend too because I'm a huge Cap fan. Obviously, it's not Steve, but it's still Captain
Cap.
America. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I feel like the pandemic really did that in because of the changes that they had to make to the show
shorten
because of it. Yeah, and that's I don't think it's any fault of their own. I think the chemistry between Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan is still fantastic. It's a good show. The thing is none of those shows are bad. I don't think any of it's bad. I know without getting into the whole socio-political things that people have bashed She-Hulk for reasons that they haven't really watched the show. She-Hulk is Ally McBeal as a Marvel show. It is fantastic for what it is. They're all really, really well done. And to me, it's what I'm going to grab for. I'm a huge craft beer fan. What am I going to reach in the fridge for? And I'm going to reach in the fridge for Hawkeye. That's what I'm going to go for time and time again.
Yeah. No, I get it. One last thing I want to talk about with this, and then we'll go to final thoughts, is
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the acting, we talked about the story, and we talked about
Mm-hmm.
how all of the storylines tie in. And so that, and again, we talked about the directing a little bit, and the fight
Mm-hmm.
scenes are amazing. But my favorite fight scene, I think, might be well, the ice skating one is probably the best. The one in Rockefeller Center with the tree falling and them doing all
That's
of the
so
trick arrows.
funny. That's my least favorite.
But I was going to say my probably biggest favorite of this one is the car chase.
Oh God, the car chase is so good, so
Yeah,
good.
because
Yeah,
they have that 360, and again, if you watch Assembled, which you will, they kind of show you
yeah.
how they did that. But they have that 360 of that goes around, and it's done practically. It's not done with CGI. It's done practically. With
I
there
love
actually is a
practical
chase
effects. You know
scene.
that. Yeah.
What? You
I
what?
said I love practical effects. You know that.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know how much I love practical effects.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but they go all the way
I thought
around,
you were
and
gonna
it's a one
say
shot. Go ahead.
God, love a good one shot. I thought you were gonna say the roof scene. To me, the roof scene where we're first introduced to Yelena is such a good fight and coming from so many different angles. And you get to see, yeah, Yelena doesn't want Clint dead. She wants to be the one. No one else gets to do that. Just her. Um, and I think I didn't like, the one thing I didn't like is that she was paid to do that. I would have preferred it, and I understand that it made the connection and the plot make more sense. But I would have preferred it was just her own vendetta and not something she was being paid to do.
Yeah, that did surprise me too, because
Mm-hmm.
it didn't need to be that Eleanor
No,
Bishop had hired her to kill Clint.
they
It
just,
certainly, yeah,
plot armor there. You know,
yeah. But yeah, that car scene is definitely my favorite, where they go again in like a single shot
there's
around,
four
and
arrows more dangerous than this.
but like again, I mean, it's all shot practically because they're being driven, and they're actually being driven by a guy, a stunt driver on top of the car, and they're just in for the ride, and the guy is
Oh man,
driving the
do you know
thing
what
through
this would
traffic.
be great in Lights Motors action?
Resurrect it. No, you know what? There's a lot of stuff that would be great in the Great Movie Ride that we can't have anymore. But
Oh, this again, this
yeah,
again.
I know.
Can I go a
I
show
drop it.
without it? All right.
Objection heard. But yeah, the trick arrows are great because that's kind of the thing that makes Hawkeye cooler in the comics. It's like he's an archer. Well, he's an archer with some pretty badass arrows. And then the fact that they've got the Pym one, which again connects it all, right? They've
Yeah.
got the Pym arrows. It's like, I don't know. We'll have to ask Scott what that one, like when they shrink
Yeah.
them down, and it's like, well, how do we get them back? Well, we'll have to ask Scott. Like, I love that they're doing that.
Yeah.
And then the one where like it's the plunger arrow, but she doesn't get it because it didn't go off. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good to see this scene. This one's my favorite. So yours is the rooftop, but this one is definitely
The
my favorite.
rooftop. The rooftop and a close second, the fight between Yelena and Kate through the office.
All right, my friend. So let me thank you for being here. Thank everybody for watching. We appreciate you each and every week coming for Deep in the Plus. We do this show
Take our wigs.
every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Thank you. Yeah, big shout out to our WIGS members, the WDWNT Inner Globe Society. Thank you guys for being members of the family and hanging with us. And again, I see Ronald and
Rob, can you do
and
the new kid's heart? I can't do the young kid's heart. Can you do the young kid's heart? Where they do
oh
it
with
different?
like that.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't do
that's
that. I do
not it.
this. I do
We're old.
I
Yeah.
do the BTS finger hearts. So, but anyway, thank you guys for being with us. We do Deep in the Plus every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. And here's what's coming up on that. The next one, we're not going to do one next Wednesday because we are going to do the marathon show on November 30th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Now, speaking of Marvel, we're going to do more Marvel because Desi is coming on to do Deadpool versus Wolverine. So we're going to talk about that. It just recently
Ooh,
dropped
that's
on
awesome.
Disney Plus. Desi's going to come on and do that as part of the marathon show, 7 to 9 on Saturday the 30th. And then on December 4th, Stephanie's coming to do Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the first in the Narnia movies. Maybe we'll end up doing all three eventually. And then we have Frozen 2 on December 11th. And Patrick is back one more time to do Decorating Disney Holiday Magic, which is a fun special, and I can't wait to get your take on all that.
I'm hoping to have something very special for you in that episode. I'm fingers crossed that it works. I'm very hopeful that we'll get something special for you in that episode.
That's going to be great. I love it. Well, thanks for doing this one for me, my friend. But
man, I love doing this.
Here's the thing now. Like, I feel like there is no surprise here how you're going to go with this one, because you've re-ranked this, you've put it back at the top. But if somebody came to you and said, Patrick, I'm looking for something on Disney Plus to watch, would you recommend this series?
I would tell them I would sit down with them and watch it. I'm like, you got 7 hours? Let's go. We can do this right now. I could do this all day. Hawkeye is one of the best things I think Marvel has ever put out. And I mean that. I am a huge MCU fan. I've loved almost every single project that they've put out. Even some of the bad ones I still find redeeming. But this might be the best thing they've done. And in rewatching it, it reiterates that to me. It's well acted. It's well directed. The action is phenomenal. It has a heartwarming story. It's a holiday movie. You need to watch this.
Okay. I believe you. I would say also, yes, it's 6 episodes. It's an easy watch. It's Christmas. I asked my wife, is this a Christmas special? She said no. I asked Patrick. He says yes. So I want to know from everybody else if you think this is a holiday special or a holiday show, because it's got the Christmas music. It's got the Christmas vibes. He's on his way home for Christmas. It feels like all the elements are there, but it's still a Marvel series. And again, like I said 100 times, it's a crossroads. It brings in the Defenders. It's about to kick off Echo, and it's sending, bringing in to Elena to send her off to Thunderbolts. And it's all it's all tied together there. And I think that I'm almost ready to put out there that there is no more important series to the MCU than this one. Now, maybe you could argue WandaVision, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I think this is the most important series. I referenced it a bunch of times, but if you get a chance and you love this series, watch Marvel Studios assembled The Making of Hawkeye. Again, it's about an hour special, but it really kind of talks about some of the stuff behind the scenes, some neat stuff with Kate Bishop and how Hailee Steinfeld bonded with the dog and how she got her part and all of that other stuff that happened in here. So I think that was a really good watch. The other thing to watch on this is that there are extras. This is something that Netflix and other systems don't do, and Disney Plus doesn't do it enough. But there are 13 deleted scenes. There's a gag reel. There's this bit about the boomerang arrow. There's the trailer, but there are 13 deleted scenes here, which is an interesting insight to some of these things. A couple of them are into Maya Echo's story, but yeah, it's really well done the way that this is put together. So there's extra features for you if you're a fanatic like Patrick is. Then there's a really neat opportunity to jump into this. But we want to hear from you if you think this is a holiday special. Patrick, any other final words on this before we head out?
I really want everyone to go watch this and tell me down in the comments that it is in fact a holiday special and it is now part of your holiday routine. Listen, it's Prep and Landing, it's Emmett Otter. Let's get all of our good Disney adjacent products. Just watched The Muppet Christmas Carol for the first time with my daughter. We're in it now.
I was thought you were going to say it for the first time. I was like, your first time with your daughter. Okay.
We're in it now. This is the latest Thanksgiving can ever be. So the holiday season is upon us. Celebrate, be happy, be kind to each other, and watch Hawkeye 3-4 times.
Perfect. Love it. And hopefully we'll see you guys Sunday night for Park Center, 9 p.m. Eastern for Park Center on Sunday nights, and then back here for another Deep in the Plus not next Wednesday. During the WDWNT Marathon for the kids, we'll be on, again, the Tots for November 30th from 7 to 9. But check out all the reviews, deepintheplus.com. We'd love to get your feedback on all the things. So have a great week. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.